Authorities clashing with protesters, making 150 arrests, as charging one woman with attempted murder for throwing a Molotov cocktail at 4 officers.
On Sunday, angry mobs ignoring mandatory curfews, violently clashing with police, overturning cars, torching buildings, and looting stores.
Fighting in the streets as brave Ukrainians repel the Russian advance. The Russian invaders are meeting fierce resistance across Ukraine, their burned out vehicles abandoned by the roadside.
Paris, supposed to be the city of love, is exploding again into hateful confrontation. Riot police versus angry youths, many under the age of 18. There's talk the French government may be forced to call a state of emergency.
A border shutdown in El Paso, Texas, as hundreds force their way onto the Paso del Norte International Bridge. Men, women, and children pushing Mexican soldiers out of the way in an attempt to enter the U.S.
Our country is really at an increased threat for a terrorist attack. A couple days before we got there, alert border agents were able to seize immigrants carrying with them IEDs, explosive devices really tailor-made for terrorism. They were the size of cannonballs.
It speaks to the defenseless nature of all the people who were being killed. They couldn't run fast enough. They had no weapons to fight back. They were no threat to those gunmen.
The unfortunate reality is that the world is changing, and not for the better. And while there will always be those that tell you you don't have to concern yourself with the skill set of operational planning, day by day becomes more of a possibility that you will have to use it. And whether you find yourself in a leadership position now or not, you never know when you'll find yourself in their shoes. And that's why in part 7 of the Modern Minutemen series, we're going to talk about operational planning. Now, before we get started, guys, I do want to point something out, and that is the fact that just because the word operational is in the title of this video or the topic that we are discussing does not mean that this is super cool guy, high-speed material. This is just general information and guidelines that people use at all different levels of many different organizations. Because whether you're using this from a tactical perspective or, you're a community-based volunteer group and you're responding the town over for some sort of humanitarian or natural disaster style incident, an operational plan still matters. You still have to plan, because if you show up with no plan, no logistics, no command and control element, whatever it might be, plainly put, it's going to be a shit show. So don't get caught up in the word operational. I know Instagram and social media has ruined that over the past few years. Don't get caught up in that. This is simple information. And secondly, guys, please like, comment, subscribe to the channel, do the supportive things. Some people like when I say that, some people don't. It's a hard platform. I gotta ask sometimes. But please, guys, everything that you guys do helps us out, supports us, and motivates us to make even more content so we can spread the knowledge to all of you guys. So, why should you guys listen to me at all for anything I'm about to say? Well, through my time in the Marine Corps, eventually ending as an NCO, I found myself writing SMEACs and operational orders, both in training and in real life, whether I was writing them for my own units or I was contributing to a higher levels operational order. And the Marine Corps was full of SOPs and pre-planning and all that kind of stuff. And this all relates. Now I'm in the fire service, which is, again, same exact thing. Lots of SOPs, pre-planning, operational orders, command and control, the whole shindig. So I've been surrounded by a lot of this for a really long time. But I also very much find it an interesting topic and think that you should read up on all this kind of stuff. And there are many different guidelines for operational planning depending on the organization that you reference. Today, we're going to be using the Marine Corps' operational planning method, which is the SMEAC, otherwise known as just the 5-paragraph order. There are other methods of planning. There are other guidelines. Use what applies to you the most. But even more importantly, Just because you download a PDF from the Marine Corps website that says this is the 5-paragraph order, that doesn't mean you have to use it to a T. Adjust things to your mission set, to your skill sets, to your capabilities, and make it applicable. Doctrine and military SOPs are not God's word. They can be changed to fit what you need done. So, if I miss something today or I present something in a way that you weren't taught, whatever it is, let's talk about it down in the comments. Share that info with other people. I don't know everything. And when you record videos like this, sometimes you look over information. Things change. I mean, the Marine Corps comes out with a new SHMEAC document every couple of years. So leave that information down below. What I want to go over first is 2 acronyms that you need to know. My Marines are going to love it. The first one is BAMSIS. And then the second one, of course, is SMEAC, otherwise known as our 5-paragraph order, or what we're basing our operational planning around. So, BAMSIS, the very first acronym that we're going to talk about. What does this stand for? This stands for begin the planning, arrange reconnaissance, make reconnaissance, complete the plan, issue the order, and supervise. Supervise being the most important step. What does any of that mean? So, when we talk about begin the planning, that is simply what it is. We're going to start the plan. We have an idea of what needs to be accomplished. There is a situation that has arrived. We are now in the beginning steps, and the ball is starting to roll. Arrange reconnaissance. Information and intel is key to any operation, both before, during, and after. For example, if you're going to respond the county over for a tornado disaster, a tornado really just wrecked the county over from you guys, are you all just going to get in trucks and drive over there and just, figure out, just start doing whatever you're going to do? Or do I need to make some phone calls ahead of time, ask the locals what's going on? Do I need to get a, motivated volunteer group for them to go ahead of us and kind of figure out what does that community need? What kind of resources do I need to bring? Do I need to bring food? Do I need to bring water? Is there shelter there that we can use while we're helping the community? Do we need to bring our own shelter? Whatever it might be, information is key. And then make reconnaissances, of course, going and doing the reconnaissance. This is true from the tactical perspective, the first responder perspective, all of it. All of it applies. Information is key. Complete the plan. Once I have gathered all of my information, I've gathered all my intel, I'm going to complete the plan. This is more than likely a template somewhere on a share drive or a thumb drive, and this is getting filled out as we go. Now, does this always have to be followed as a template? No. If you've been doing this long enough, you can probably write a SHMEAC on any given piece of paper. But it's always nice to have a template because things can get looked over. But regardless, we're going to complete the plan. Issue the order. That is when you bring everybody in and you say, this is what's going on. This is the plan. This is how we're going to get it done. What are the questions? That is issuing the order. Now, when we issue the order, if I say I have a company size element for XYZ scenario, be creative. As the company commander or the company first sergeant that's going to be presenting this, maybe an XO, depending on how your company is set up, whatever it might be, that company level leadership member is not giving it to every individual in the company. The platoon commanders, platoon sergeants, specific shop leaderships, they're all going to come in and they're going to get a general broad SHMEAC of what all is going on. It is not going to detail every single small individual thing of what's going on. So if I have a company, I'm going to erase some of this for a minute. Hopefully you guys like the whiteboard classes. You guys liked the last couple we did. So we're back with more. So I have my company. Some of you are saying, Jeremy, I don't have a company. I've got 7 dudes that show up to training sometimes. Okay, well, when the balloon goes up and everybody in the world's looking for leadership, you may find yourself with 250 volunteers in your community. But we're going to talk about that later. So I have the company, and let's say you have 3 platoons, and then you have the headquarters element itself. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. This level of the SMEAC is giving the objectives and the overall scheme to these guys at their element level. These guys are going to go back based on what was given here and expand on that SMEAC. And then the platoon is going to create its own SMEAC, a tree of it, if you will, a branch to the squads. And then the squads will then break down things even further to their fire teams. At this level, once we get down to the fire team level, oh, that's a P. We're not looking at, as large of a SMEAC. Things have normally started to scale back down a little bit. But here in the middle, the squads, platoons, and the shops and all that, this is where the meat and potatoes of all of the SMEAC comes in. This is where you're going to find most of the details. This is where you're going to find the larger scheme of maneuver, so on and so forth. This, in this example of the element, this is where you're going to find things. So when we talk about issuing the order, that is where it comes in. We start with a general SMEAC. It gets a little more detailed and a little bigger. It gets even more detailed and a little bit bigger. And then it starts to scale back down a little bit more once we're at the fire team level. Again, experience may vary. So, back to our acronyms. Once we have issued the order, we're going to supervise. I told you in the beginning that supervise is the most important step, and that is because we need to oversee our, operational order carryouts, and adjustments will need to be made. Things will develop. Things will change. This is where the money is made. So let's talk about SMEAC. What does this stand for? Situation, mission, execution, admin and logistics, command, and signal. Let's break this down one at a time because there's a lot of information to digest with this. So the very first line in our SMEAC is situation. This can be made up into 4 parts: summary, enemy, friendly, and weather and terrain. And like I said before, guys, this can be scaled to the application or who is using it. If I am responding to the community over me, again, for that tornado disaster, do I need an entire section on enemy forces? No, probably not. I may have a section under friendly, which just may be like, what does the first responder community look like there? Do they have, do we have a friendly organization that we've worked with in the past that are in this community that we can expect to meet? Whatever that might be, that may go under there. And then, of course, weather and terrain, very important. So, summary. This is simply a short narrative that kind of summarizes what is going on. A 3 to 4 sentence kind of picture painting type of paragraph. This is helpful for those that may not need to know or be a part of this entire SMEAC process or where the operation is going to take place, but they're trying to get a general idea of what's going on, or maybe it's a higher command element that's kind of stopping in and just seeing what's going on around here. Why is this happening? Whatever it might be, that is where that comes from. Don't think of it as bullet points, guys. Think of it as a small narrative, storytelling, if you will. Enemy, if applicable, it'll be made up of 3 things: the enemy situation, their capabilities, and then probable cause of action. Now, you can get some of this information from something like a salute report that your recon team sent back in, intel that's already standing on the enemy force, whatever that might be. For situation, you're, again, kind of storytelling what's going on. And you may have already done that within your summary section, so you don't necessarily always need to repeat information. Capabilities, obviously, very important. What does my enemy force look like? Is my enemy force, equipped with small arms and hand grenades? Is my enemy force equipped with armored vehicles with belt-fed weapon systems? Does my enemy force have air support, whatever it might be? Capabilities is super important for you to know. And then probable course of action. What is the enemy most likely to do? Is my enemy most likely to attack civilian populated areas? Is the enemy most likely to attack infrastructure? Whatever it might be, Probable course of action, which is probably developed by whoever is heading your intel and information, probably comes from them. That'll go right there. Friendly. First couple lines, mission of higher units and mission of adjacent units. All this means is, what is the general mission or objective for the unit higher than me? So if I am a squad riding the SMEAC, the higher unit is the platoon. What are the main objectives of the mission of the platoon as a whole? Mission of adjacent units, that is going to be the other squads in the platoon. Say there's 3 squads in the platoon. What is second and third squad doing? Okay, well, first squad is, leading the assaults on this operation. Second squad is the support element. Third squad is the security element, whatever it is. That goes right there. Useful information, more for the leaderships and planning. Mission of support elements that have been attached to me. A support element may be a logistics unit. It may be a medical unit. It may be some sort of weapons capabilities like a mortar squad or platoon, whatever it might be. Supportive units get put there. Now, this is different from attachments. So say I'm first squad and I am given a fire team of engineers and they have, some specific tasks that they're supposed to be completing throughout this operation and they're getting stuck with us. I have what their mission is. Their mission is to inspect, local infrastructure for possibility of troop movement and logistics, or scouting out areas to build infrastructure, whatever it might be. You could put that right there. Engineers, sorry if I screwed up your role in life. And then lastly, weather and terrain. Obviously very important because weather dictates a ton. A lot of people don't know that. But, especially if you're working with some sort of aviation unit, which, to the civilian sitting at home right now with 6 dudes in his family and his community group, yeah, that's not a concern right now. But I'm just big picture, guys. Big picture, scale. Weather is a huge determining factor. Let's talk about, like moonlight, for instance. If you're conducting some sort of nighttime operation, whether offensive or defensive, and, ambient light is just awful. There's no ambient light tonight, so all of the nods that you have, they're not going to be very useful because I'm not going to be able to employ them to their more to their highest capability. So, weather may be, a determining factor for calling this off, postponing it, rescheduling, whatever it might be. And then significant terrain. Terrain may be large rivers that separates, objective locations. It could be mountainsides and hilly terrain that may interrupt communications. Whatever that is, significant terrain is going to be issued under here. And again, guys, this situation box can be very short, be very long and detailed. That is up to you and what you find yourself doing. If you're defending the homestead and you're planning some sort of operation, we're going to go to the town over to get such and such, and we're taking a tactical perspective to this. This is not going to be as huge of a box. If you're a company of volunteers because the Russians just jumped out of a plane and parachuted into your town, this might get a little bigger. So scale to what you need. Next, let's talk about mission. All right, guys, line number 2 is mission. And you'll notice that there's nothing else written up here right now. That's because this is the shortest section of the SMEAC. Short, simple, sweet, and to the point. Mission, just like we talked about before with the whole narrative thing, that's what this is again. Few sentences making up a small paragraph of just what are we trying to accomplish? What are the overall big objectives? Kind of like the commander's intent type thing. This is very short narrative style paragraph, guys. Don't get too wrapped up in these details because it's not meant to be long. This should be easy and that everybody should know overall what is the mission. They shouldn't have to write anything down and really even try to remember, have to reference it to remember. They should just, boom, what is the mission? This is the mission. So now let's move along to the biggest part of the SMEAC, and that is execution. Now for the longest section of the SMEAC, and that is execution. This is the heavy meat and potatoes for everything that everyone needs to know. It's going to be broken down into 2 sections: concept of the operation and coordinating instructions. Let's start with the first. Concept of operation. The very first line we're going to run to is the scheme of maneuver. How are we, what are the events and how are they playing out? We're going to start here and move to here. Once we're here, we're going to set up a patrol base till morning, and then we're going to conduct the assault and then we're going to move back here, and the whole operation will end when we reach this point, whatever it might be, something along those lines. What are the objectives? The objectives are, whatever we're trying to accomplish, think big and small, that is specific to this unit size or this element size that we're planning this SMEAC around. Formations. This is going to be more pertinent to the smaller units. Obviously, at the company and battalion level, I'm not going to dictate what formations that we use at the squad, platoon, and fire team level, whatever that might be. But the formations that you're going to use will go there. And then tactical missions to subordinate units. Let's say I am a squad. This SMEAC is based around a squad size element. I may say, hey, 3rd Fire Team, you guys are tasked with handling POWs, whatever that might be. Something like that, small tasks that may not be in the overall bigger picture of things. This will really play a lot of factor at the smaller unit level. And then we have coordinating instructions. First up, we have timeline. This is a no shit timeline. You will write down times, and the events over here, the scheme and maneuver, will be matched with some sort of time. Normally, you won't see too much timeline stuff thrown into the scheme, although depending on who writes it, you might. But timeline, it could be, we will step off from base at 07. We will reach checkpoint 1 by 0745. We will reach checkpoint 2 by 0815, whatever that might be. Timeline, going in order, all the way, start to finish. Order of events. This is very similar to scheme. So whether you want to use it or not, or how you utilize it is up to you. Again, scale up, scale down. Security. What is the security plan for this operation? Are there specific places or specific times where it may have specific security instructions that are outside of just our normal practice? Anything in regards to security goes right there. Significant locations. This could be tied to our objectives. If a significant location could be a bridge, it could be a building, it could be a water source. Say, hey, at checkpoint 2, a significant location is going to be that large water source that is exactly a quarter mile to our southeast from checkpoint 2. That is a significant location that everyone needs to know. Hey, checkpoint 2, quarter mile southeast, we're getting water. Control measures. This could be your line of departure. This could be your objective rally point. Essentially, you're just going to write down a bunch of different references and then their purpose and then their grid coordinates. This is something a lot of people need to know. And then the routes, the major routes that you're going to be taking. Again, a lot of this may be covered in your scheme of maneuver, but it's always good to write down the major routes that you're going to be using for you to reference later whenever you're doing land nav, or maybe you're making adjustments in the field, whatever it might be. This, guys, can be really big or really small depending on how detailed you write your SMEACs. For me personally, I try not to dictate too much detail to the units below me. So say I'm writing this at the platoon size level, I'm not going to tell the squads their exact details of what formations they may be using or what their specific security plan is, anything like that. Big things like control measures, timeline, stuff like that, sure. But, the nitty-gritty details, I try to give, my small unit leaders the most amount of decision-making capabilities as possible. So let's move on from execution to line number 4, which is admin and logistics. All right, guys, line number 4 is admin and logistics. And this is a very overlooked section of the SMEAC, but it's very important. Up first, we have supply. And supply can be broken down into many kind of sub-bullet points. What do my guys need to wear? What kind of gear do my guys need to bring? What kind of rations do they need to bring? How much ammo do they need to bring? How much water do they need to bring? And then in the very end of that, what is your resupply plan? If I run out of ammo, if I run out of food, water, whatever it might be, if I run out of mission essentials, what is my plan to get my guys more? Now, that could be a reality that acquire as you go is a part of the plan, but you should definitely not just rely on that 24/7. If you're able to, you should definitely make sure that you plan for logistics and be able to support your guys. If you have a platoon size amount of dudes, somewhere between 40 to 60 dudes, and that's all you have. What does it mean 40 to 60 dudes are all of my direct action element guys? That means probably a quarter to maybe a third of them are my direct action element guys. And then I need support personnel. So keep that kind of stuff in mind. Medical. What is my medical plan? First step of your medical plan may be self-aid and buddy aid. Then if you have a doc attached, doc will take over care. If you have some sort of, supportive units that we talked about earlier, say you have some sort of CASEVAC or medevac unit that is attached, that goes in here. Overall, what is your plan for medical? That goes right in here. And that should be well understood by everybody. Transportation. If I have transportation, what is it? What is its capabilities? What kind of special considerations do I need? If my mission dictates transportation and my transportation gets screwed up in one way or another, what's my plan after that? And then POWs and captured material. Again, if I'm going over the town over to help with a tornado, I don't have to worry about POWs and captured materials much. Maybe a little bit of a security plan could be detaining a crazy ass person, but that's very, very, not what this is essentially leading to. This is, I have no shit POWs or captured sensitive material. Say I've conducted that assault and, the enemy TOC was set up there. Now I have a bunch of maps and radio equipment and all that kind of stuff, and I need to bring that back and turn that into my intel guys. What is the plan for that, throughout the rest of the operation? Like we talked about in execution to those subunit tactical missions or objectives or whatever, we talked about how, hey, that one fire team was in charge of POWs. Again, we can kind of revisit that here. Where is it going to be stored? Who's going to oversee it? Who has the security? So on and so forth. That is our admin and logistics, guys. Logistics is super, super, super important. I cannot stress it enough. You should not go into anything without any type of support and logistics, because if you do, you're going to have a bad day. So let's talk about line 5, the very last line, and that is command and signal. All right, guys, the 5th and final line of the SMEAC is command and signal. It can be broken down, of course, into 2 sections, command and signal. For command, 2 very easy kind of categories there. Leadership locations, if this is a company size SMEAC, where is the company CO and the XO and the first sergeant, while all this is going on? And then what is the chain of command? So let's say in this SMEAC, I listed out the chain of command as, 5 people. It's the CO, it's the XO, then it's the first platoon officer, and it's the second platoon officer, third platoon officer, whatever it might be. Those locations of those individuals need to be listed. But in general, what does my chain of command look like? If this is a much smaller SMEAC, we're talking about a squad, it may be, who's going to replace the squad leader if the squad leader goes down? Who's going to replace maybe a team leader if a team leader goes down? Whatever that might be. Then we have signal. Our first sub-bullet point here is comms. What type of radios are we using? What frequencies are we using? What encryption are we using? What's our crypto plan? Do we have a timeline where we're going to roll crypto during the operation? If comms becomes compromised, what is my backup communications plan? What is the backup to the backup communications plan? What is my primary source of comms? If I'm just a squad, my primary source of comms, may not involve radios at all. Very customizable to what's going on. Your level of comms may be, hey, cell phones. Our primary is cell phone because we're going to the town over for a tornado. If we get over there and cell phone service is just down and we didn't know about it, hey, we'll roll over to our radios, whatever it might be. Pyro and signal. This can be, hey, if I pop smoke of this color, this is what it means. If I throw a red smoke, that means I'm marking an enemy position. Or my grenadier, shoots over a red smoke grenade, he's marking that enemy position. Or signal. It could be something like, hey, during nighttime operations, if I flash my IR illuminator at you 3 times really fast, it means this. What does my different panels and chem lights mean, and all of that kind of different stuff. If I have a lot of room clearing involved with this operation, I may say, hey, at each floor of this building we're going to clear. Once that floor is clear, I'm going to mark it with a green chem light. It means it's clear. And, whenever I throw down a blue chem light, that means, hey, that's where we set up that immediate CCP for the building for whenever we take casualties. You've cleared that first floor. Cool. First floor door, green chem light and blue chem light. Boom. Now I know, without even going into this entire floor from the stairwell, what's going on with this floor. Now, of course, that gets more difficult if you have multiple stairwells, access points, all that kind of stuff. But this isn't a room clearing video. Challenge and pass, very important. We have our running pass. So if I have to, I don't have time to go through the whole challenge and pass thing. I'm room clearing and something goes horribly south in the hallway and I have to bail into a room where some friendlies are in real quick. I may just yell, blue, 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 green, 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 whatever my color is. I'm just yelling it as I run past. Then I have my number combination. So if my number combo is 15 and I'm approaching, say, an LPOP or a checkpoint, whatever it might be, and they yell out 8, well, then I yell back 7 for a total of 15. They yell out 10, I yell out 5, whatever it might be. And then I have my actual phrase or my match-to-match word. So like in Saving Private Ryan, when they're in one of the French towns, you hear them yell thunder and then they respond lightning. Same exact principle there. So make sure everybody understands the challenge and pass. And then code words. Code words can be attached to specific tactical objectives, infrastructure, location, roads, whatever that might be. Like in Black Hawk Down, the code word for the operation to begin was Irene. And, everybody runs out to the helicopters and whatnot, and then poof, off they go. Same principle there. That is our command and signal, guys. And that is our SHMIAC. Not as difficult as you may think it is. It's really not. Get some repetitions in you. Create a template or download a template. Go over it with your guys. Do little scenarios. Practice writing them up. If you guys head over to the Nickest of Nicks Instagram page, he is a Marine Corps guy turned Army. And he does these kind of like little competitions or these contests on his Instagram page where he gives you a scenario and tells you what your left and right lateral limits are and what you have at your disposal. And he's like, all right, come back to me in whatever a week, and we're going to compare everybody's operational order, and we're going to pick out a winner. Normally there's some prizes involved and whatnot, and I think that's super awesome that he does that. I think those are the types of things that really start to build leaders. And with as weird as the world is getting, and we keep talking more and more about community in different organizations and so on and so forth, leadership really, really matters. And even if you're not in a leadership position right now, you should be prepared to become a leader. I've been telling my local guys for years that while they may not be leaders right now, you never know when everything goes completely south and you step up to the plate to fulfill that spot, that role, to fix whatever is broken, whatever it might be. People will look to you for guidance, look to you for leadership. And it's the stuff that you do right now, and it's how serious you take this stuff right now that is going to be part of that determining outcome. It's going to determine that outcome, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you believe in. It doesn't matter whether you want to be involved. It doesn't matter if you agree with what's going on or you don't agree with it. It doesn't matter if you want to be just left alone. People do not care. Those that wish to do you harm do not care. They don't. And that really needs to set in with a lot of people moving forward. And people really have got to start taking this kind of stuff serious, because this kind of stuff determines failure or success, and it can save lives. Guys, that's all I have for part 7 of the Modern Minuteman series. You can find more of this content here on YouTube. There should be a playlist that is associated with all of this. And you can find more content about this on the ECT Instagram page and then my personal Instagram page as well. And, if you go over to our Instagram pages, I'm constantly sharing people that are putting out similar info like this. As always, guys, train hard, train often.